Hey gang, Denise here, and this is Ask Denise. And Marielle has asked me a question about bunions, and quite a comprehensive question, so I'm going to go through a whole bunch of things with you. First of all, bunions are also sometimes called hallux valgus. And what it does is it affects this joint right here. This is your first metatarsophalangeal joint. And we often see, if you don't have this yourself, you may have seen somebody that it seems like this bone sticks way out and their toe dives in toward the middle of the foot. So that's what it is. It can be very, very painful. And of course, it doesn't come on all of a sudden. This would be something that would happen over time. So you can have varying degrees of that deformity. It's a deformation of the connective tissue and the joint capsule. So when we use the term deformation, when we talk about connective tissue, that's just how it changes shape and quality and everything. So it just refers to the change. So that's what it is. Now, why would somebody have that? I know that for many, many years it was talked about like it was hereditary, but you don't necessarily have to come down with bunions if you know what really causes them. So you might have hereditary things like the type of connective tissue you have, or how long your toes are, or something like that. That might be. But you actually are more prone to having bunions if you're female, because females generally are more mobile. We have more flexibility, if you want to think of it that way. Also, if you have generalized hypermobility syndrome, you will be in danger of coming down with bunions. And also if you have a very low foot arch, or you lose your foot arch, or if you have a flat foot. You may not have arch problems per se, but if you have a really flat foot, you will be a little less stable at that joint, and then that can be a problem. All right, so now anyone can actually develop bunions if you do these particular things. If you walk with your feet turned out. If you walk with your feet turned out, what happens is your great toe cannot do its job. So what would happen is you would push off from that joint that I just showed you. You would be doing your push off from that joint rather than from the great toe itself. Do you see how the straight great toe is going to push me off? That is his job. If you let that foot turn out, not only does your arch roll in, but you're going to start bending right there, and you start putting lots of pressure. It pushes the toes to the side or to the center of the foot like that. And if you think about how many hundreds of thousands of steps you take, then each step is pushing and deforming that connective tissue over time. All right, and now the other thing is if you wear footwear that's too tight. So especially like we have to look at kids growing up when their connective tissues are easily deformed, we need to make sure they have enough room to wiggle their toes and get full toe function. So being barefoot as much as possible for little kids especially. And I'm really sensitive because I have a grandchild, so I'm all on fire about his feet. But you know, if you wear shoes or footwear that's too small, then that could cause that. Or if you wear really pointy-toed shoes, I've seen people in my yoga classes, and it looks like their foot is like permanently in a pointy-toed shoe. Even men in dress shoes will have that permanent shape to their foot. Makes it really difficult to actually bend your toes properly too. So it's not just this joint that's being affected. It's all your toes, your entire foot function. That could affect your knee function, so many things. So that covers, and high heels. So if you're wearing a high-heeled shoe, it's going to push you into a vulnerable position. And again, you're going to have a lot of pressure on that first metatarsophalangeal joint. So again, and if you couple that with turning your feet out, which a lot of women do tend to do, especially when they wear heeled shoes, then you see it's just a recipe for developing a bunion. All right, so what can you do about it? Well, number one, straighten out how you walk with your feet. Even if you can't quite get them so they do come straight forward, work on getting as close to that position as you can. That is going to make a really big difference. Concentrate, practice, it's very important. Go barefoot as much as possible. Let your toes get, do their job. And stay out of heels if you can, as much as possible. If you have a fancy event to go to or whatever, sure, wear heels. But just know, like, if it's a daily thing, that would really make a difference. And now I want to talk about how we can get better foot function happening. So I use a tune-up ball for this, and this is brilliant as not as a foot release tool, but as a foot strengthener. So I will do things like I'll grab the ball with my toes and then splay them out. And believe it or not, this is impossible for some people. So they might even have to get down and like help their toes, especially to go into extension. They might have to help their toes at first. Then I work with the great toe all by itself and I get it up and down. This is very important, this great toe. And it needs to function fully. And if I have to like tell it with my fingers, come on, you can do this, and do it as much as possible. So it needs to be able to extend like that. I can give it a little extra help here, putting it in that position and getting it ready for a better push off, pushing my toe into the ball. So you see, I'm doing all of this to strengthen, not to stretch. This is an instability problem, and you need to strengthen your feet and improve their full function. Then you could do, get your toes to pick something up, like a towel, or this band will do nicely, just getting my toes. See, I'm going to let them extend first, and then I'll grab and extend, getting them to do their job, waking them up. And then we can move on to like even stronger things like toe raises. If you really want to prevent bunions, then get into doing some toe raises. So I'm doing this with the blocks so that I can really energize the arch of my foot and keep my feet oriented correctly. You can do that isometrically, or you can do it with reps, but you want to make sure you're working to your capacity. If you want to improve, you've got to work all the way to your capacity. And then the other thing you can do, and this you can do anytime, is do the alphabet with your feet. So, A, B, they're getting in each other's way, C, D. Seriously, this is a really good way to get all of the small bones in your feet and ankles working. So now, those are things you can do, kind of preventative things, but if you already have a bunion, I've seen lots of products actually coming across my Instagram account, you probably have too, that are, little sleeves or other little devices. So you might want to look into that. So you can actually be barefoot. You don't really need to use an orthotic. You want to wake up your feet and get them stronger, but maybe just get some help getting that connective tissue back into a better position. That could be something. But remember, this is a hypermobility issue, instability issue, and you need to work on strengthening, not just stretching, because again, I've looked into it. A lot of times that's the advice you get, is to stretch, but that isn't ultimately going to fix it. So walk with your feet straight. Avoid wearing heels. Make sure your toes have room to move, and then start strengthening with your toe grabbing and your great toe, picking up towels, doing heel raises and toe raises. Let's get those feet functioning, and you will have happy feet, and that will improve the quality of your life, I guarantee it. So thanks so much for joining me today. Please send your questions and comments. See you next time. Bye for now.